For today's classic interview, continuing with our Friday conspiracy theories, we had Dr. Jim Garrow last week. I won't rehash that. This week, we are going back to my October of 2014 interview with Judyth Vary Baker. She had, I don't want to spoil it for you, but she had some outrageous ideas about the assassination of John F. Kennedy and Lee Harvey Oswald. And I think I'm only going to say that and nothing else. If you've not seen this interview, and because our audience has grown so drastically over the last year, this 2014 interview may be, in fact, I'm sure that it is brand new to most in our audience. I will stop here with the introduction and just tell you this was a very, very, very interesting interview, and we will dig into it right now. I'm joined today by Judyth Vary Baker, who is the author of the new book, David Ferrie, Mafia Pilot, Participant in Anti-Castro Bioweapon Plot, and as well as a friend of Lee Harvey Oswald and key to the JFK assassination. Judyth Vary Baker claims to be the former lover of Kennedy assassin Lee Harvey Oswald. This is such an incredible story, Miss Baker. I'm thrilled to have you on. Let's start at the beginning. How did you meet Lee Harvey Oswald?
Well, Lee was sent briefly. He was sent when I arrived in New Orleans, and I was only 19. I arrived early for an assignment that turned out to be a CIA-sponsored project to kill Castro. I was very anti-Castro, but I had been trained to handle SV40 monkey virus and other dangerous components of cancer in cancer research. And I was alone, and he was sent to protect me and make sure I would be safe until the doctors returned. They were in South America when I came.
So let's start there, because there's a lot there, as my audience can obviously tell, to
Yes.
take a look at. So you were working for the CIA at the time.
Well, I didn't know it, of course. They only tell you what they have to tell you. But eventually, of course, I did understand, because Lee and I developed a relationship that turned into a love affair. And I can assure you that Lee Oswald was framed and did not kill Kennedy. I mean, this is an obsolete thing the Warren Commission has put together. But
let's not skip ahead, though. Let's not skip ahead. Let's go piece by piece. I don't want my audience to miss a second of this. So what was the project that you were working on with regard to Castro?
All right. We now know the CIA and Mafia worked together to try to kill Castro. They had tried everything. Now, this was a covert attempt to use cancer, because Fidel Castro smoked cigars, and we knew that if we could get lung cancer cells injected into him of a certain kind that they'd been working on, that he would probably die from it.
So this is a sort of bioweapon, correct?
Yes, and that was 50 years ago. Imagine what we have today.
Now, I'm curious, why would the CIA at that time need to develop something as complex as injecting lung cancer cells when they already had so many poisons that could have killed Castro?
Well, they had already tried that. Rita Lorenz, for example, they gave her poison pills. You hid them in cold cream and they dissolved. Other people would be connected to that, but he was getting like DPT shots and things, and nobody could ever trace, if it was done correctly, that he was really getting cancer cells instead.
So you meet Lee Harvey Oswald, and he reveals to you he's been sent to protect you. Talk about that. What was he sent to protect you from?
Well, from Castro spies. The whole project was in New Orleans, and that's a point. That's a point of entry. And many Cubans were coming in who knew we didn't know whether they were spies or not, because they were also training insurgents there to try and reinvade Cuba. And all that's in the book. And by the way, it's all documented. I have witnesses also as to my relationship that are on film and tape about the fact that we had a relationship.
Well, let's go step by step again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Sure.
Here's just an innocent question that I hope you have the answer to. If you didn't even know you were working for the CIA, how would it be that you needed to be protected from foreign elements that knew you were working for the CIA?
That's an excellent question. Well, even though I didn't, we had there was penetration into the CIA from a lot of Cubans, because CIA was working with them, and to determine who was on Castro's side was not that easy.
Okay.
So there,
how did your relationship?
Doctors even.
How did your relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald develop?
Well, it's through a series of circumstances. Basically, we both had very unhappy marriages. My former husband, he married me one day, and the next day he was gone. I mean, he didn't tell me where he even went for weeks at a time. And it really hurt my feelings. And as for Lee, he had to marry his wife when he was in the USSR so he wouldn't get deported. So it wasn't like a marriage made in heaven.
And who publicly would know about your relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald?
Well, we have Anna Lewis and others. We have the Charles Thomas family. We have Mac McCullough. These are witnesses who have gone on tape and film verifying that they saw me with Lee and that, kissing me and things,
Well,
So,
but I want to stay, because this is such a big issue, right?
Yes.
I want to stay as close to the facts as I know them, and then you can correct me where I'm wrong. Anna Lewis, who's the former wife of David Lewis, has confirmed that she saw you on a couple of dates with Lee Harvey Oswald. And but hold on, let me get the question out. Yeah. You'll have plenty of time to respond. And that you did both work together. But Anna Lewis has not stated anything in terms of any kind of a romantic relationship. It's period.
That's not correct. In her film that's on YouTube, it says I was his mistress. Now, I think that pretty much confirms the relationship.
Anna Lewis has claimed that you said you were his...
She has asserted, sir.
She has asserted that that was your claim, though. She had no...
Sir, in a way, it's not a claim. Lee and I, we have a complete relationship that you can establish right from at least as early as May 9th, when we were both hired by a tiny company the same day. 1 week later, we were moved together, and it's all in the records, the official records.
With all due respect, though, being hired by the same company does not prove that there's any kind of affair.
I'm saying we can establish the relationship even by our check stubs, which I kept all 50 years now. And doesn't that only prove that you were both being paid by the same company? Let me just give you an example. Ms. Baker, my objective is to present the audience with the data. My audience knows that my check stub and my producers come from the same small company. That would not, of course, prove that I'm in any kind of relationship with my producer, right? But were you hired the same day? If he got fired, would you be fired the same day?
I don't know. I guess we'd have to wait and see if that happens. But of course, that's speculative.
I have those kind of records.
So let's go to the moment of the assassination, right? Talk to us about that day. What was that like?
Well, I had been sent out of the project because I had been kicked out because I had ethical objections to using prisoners who were volunteers, and they were going to be injected with this, and if it worked, it would kill them. And because I objected, they sent me back to Florida. It really saved my life. But Lee and I stayed in contact. I talked to him via phone, and we have some kinds of records to help substantiate that.
What kind of records?
Well, the Warren Commission noticed that a woman with no accent called the Texas School Book Depository and asked for the janitor. Now, Lee was not a janitor. He was a clerk there. But that was the way that I contacted him. The first two initials of my name are Judyth Ann, and that's what I used. And the name of janitor is very rare. I'm trying to find somebody else in working position. So he knew it was me and called me back. And we have a lot of other material that I have inside information that now has been substantiated. For example, I told people in 1999 that Lee had saved Kennedy's life. He believed he did. And now we have Abraham Bolden that came out and said that's true. Lee Oswald is the one who called the FBI in Chicago and saved Kennedy's life.
Well, no, listen, I mean, here's the thing, Ms. Baker. Do you see why, from the point of view of an audience, when you say all of this has been substantiated, but there is no, hold on, but you don't provide substantiation, and such independent substantiation doesn't exist. But hold on, Ms. Baker, Ms. Baker.
I cannot provide for you the documents which I have in a 508-page book. The documents are there. I
understand that. I'm merely trying to have just a conversation with you, which is, I would love it if you would give me your opinion as to whether you understand why people for decades have been so skeptical of your claims. Do you understand that?
I haven't made these claims, sir, what you call claims, for decades. I spoke out for the first time in 1999 after a silence of 35 years. And
that's over 3 decades, right?
No, sir, that's not over 3 decades. That's 1 year in 1999, and we are now in 2014.
Okay,
that's 15 years.
I apologize
Now,
if
now I'm
my
telling you, you don't.
semantics were wrong, but over a
All right, well,
period that
semantics can mess
spanned
things up.
3 different decades, a period that spanned three decades.
I have no more problems, sir, except with maybe somebody in New York, when I claim that I knew Lee Oswald and what we were working on. That's why in the last 2 years I haven't had opposition, because
But that's
people
not
have
true,
read the
Ms.
book.
Baker. With all due
Thousands have read
respect,
the book.
it's not true to say you've had no opposition. There are
No, I have not had opposition, sir. I'm talking about in rate most of the interviews I've had.
yeah.
The opposition is old. It comes from the same people all the way back to 1999 who never met me.
I'm sensing that you're getting very defensive, but I'm merely
Why would I?
asking
You're saying I'm
basic
making
questions
claims,
here.
and you haven't read the book, and you say I have. You're talking about that I don't have documentation. But that's
All
right.
I'm saying, Ms. Baker, is that an assertion is not evidence that the
Yeah,
assertion
I
is
have the
true.
book. The book is called Me and Lee, and the other book is David Ferry, Mafia Pilot. You can get them from Trine Day Publishers, or you can go to Amazon.com.
Okay.
Read the reviews.
You know,
Read the
Ms. Baker,
reviews.
I was really hoping to be able to have more of a ground
Yes.
level discussion
Okay, let's
about
keep
why these claims are so heavily contested. It's not when
They are
you say,
not heavily contested.
but that's the
sir. It
thing. We
only comes
disagree about that,
back-
Ms.
no,
Baker.
that-
With
that
all
comes
due
from one
respect,
group,
Ms.
sir.
Baker,
That comes from one group only. People who have never met me. And one of them is led by a man whose book was canceled because of my book.
did you ever meet John F. Kennedy?
What has that to do with what we're talking about? Have you?
What the reason it matters is you're saying anyone who hasn't met you can't reasonably criticize or know what is or is not true about
No,
your life,
sir. No,
but you
sir.
make
We're talking
claims
about
about the
nobody has met
assassination
me.
of Kennedy, a man whom you've never met.
These people attacked the book before it was even published, sir. Before they knew how to spell my name properly, they put it with an I. They were attacking me. They never met me, and they produced silly things like they said I only have one paycheck, or that I only knew Lee for 11 weeks. Things like that you can read. They're not true. And
Okay, but I've not said those things. I've not said those things.
No, you haven't, but you have said that I have a lot of opposition. Sir, I'm going to 31 cities. This is being financed by people who have read the book. They're from plane ticket to plane ticket, from hotel to hotel,
Yeah.
and I'm reaching the people. I loved Lee Oswald with all my heart.
All right. Well, you know, I hoped we could have a different sort of discussion. I apologize that it went in this direction, but I'll tell you what, I encourage the audience to do as you say, check out the book and see if it resonates with you and go from there. So I do thank you for being on, Ms. Baker. We've been speaking with Judyth Vary Baker.
I will always be honest with you and tell you exactly how I feel.
Thank you so much.
God bless.